Analysis. A glossary. Free association. The term used by the psychoanalyst to register his approval of the patient who talks about what the analyst wants him to talk about. Freud on Freud. I am actually not at all a man of science, not an observer, not an experimenter, not a thinker. I am by temperament nothing but a conquistador, an adventurer. Libido theory, the litany of the Freudian services. Psychoanalysis. 1. The trade name of a certain kind of conversation, just as Coca-Cola and Kentucky Fried Chicken are the trade names of a certain kind of soft drink and fast food. 2. The name of a body of speculations about life and human relations put forward by the originator of the trade name. 3. The only medical specialty in which one must be a patient before one can become a therapist, which is like requiring that a physician be a cancer patient before becoming an oncologist, or that he be a dead patient before becoming a pathologist. Although such a requirement is alien to medicine, it is familiar in religion. The strength of Christianity, Christian Science, Alcoholics Anonymous, and other religious movements rests heavily on their recruiting members from among those saved by one or another of these sects. Psychoanalytic diagnosis. Just let all the millionaires stay crazy. They don't have anything else to do. Psychoanalytic gigolo. Male psychoanalyst kept by and exploiting his wealthy female patient. The psychoanalytic equivalent of a man marrying for money. Virtually the only way for a psychoanalyst, nominally qua analyst, to make a significant amount of money. Psychoanalytic Institute, a school where the faculty, composed of middle-aged and old men and women, systemically degrades and infantilizes the students, composed of psychiatrists fast approaching middle age, who eagerly submit to this degradation ceremony in the expectation, often unfulfilled, that after being deprived of all independent judgment and the capacity to form such judgment, they will be able to inflict a similar treatment on others, call it psychoanalysis, and charge high fees for it. Psychoanalytic meeting, the Yom Kippur service of the secularized and scientific faithful. Instead of regaling God in Hebrew with accounts of their own spiritual sinfulness, the worshippers regale each other, in the jargon of psychoanalysis, with accounts of the mental sickness of their patients. Psychoanalytic theory, the work song of the Freudian boatman. Psychoanalytic treatment, talking people into and out of things, which is what my occupation consists in. Resistance. 1. The term the psychoanalyst uses to register his disapproval of the patient who talks about what he himself wants to talk about. 2. The patient's reluctance to keep paying the analyst for a service the patient no longer finds useful. Training analyst. 1. A non-swimmer working as a lifeguard. 2. An optician fitting his patient with distorting lenses. The unconscious. 1. The promised land of the psychoanalytic faithful. 2. The territory of a psychoanalytic mafia. The term psychoanalysis is a strategically literalized metaphor, devised and developed to make it seem as if the psyche were like blood or urine and could be analyzed. Playing this language game for all it's worth, some psychiatrists have duly claimed to have invented psychosynthesis. Freud converted speech into a specimen, to be analyzed by means of the fake technique of free association, dreams into dung, the excrement of the mental apparatus in which the analyst, as laboratory technician, searches for the pathological contents of the patient's unconscious mind, and legendary heroes, like Oedipus, into complexes, henceforth to serve as the labels of mankind's innate and incurable insanities. In short, Freud medicalized and thus dehumanized language, history, and the whole of human existence. Psychoanalysis now serves as a language for concealing and repressing the existence of moral conflicts and choices, just as formerly Latin served as a language for concealing and repressing the existence of sexual body parts and performances. Freud gave the right account of psychoanalysis, but placed it in the wrong category. He described it as a type of contract and conversation, but classified it as a type of treatment. This is one of the reasons for the hopeless confusion and controversy about whether or not psychoanalysis is a type of medical practice. When couched in the language of medicine as a treatment for an illness, it belongs, by definition, to medicine. And when couched in the language of communication and contract, as a conversation about a person's past and present experiences and methods of coping with his life, it clearly doesn't belong to medicine. Freud was like Ford. Each developed a better mousetrap: Freud for lunacy, Ford for locomotion. However, in insisting that psychoanalysis was not conversation but a special type of treatment, Freud made a claim as patently false and fraudulent as Ford's claim would have been had he insisted that the Model T was not a car but a special type of horse. Freud's achievement thus lay not in any discovery, but in the ability to make people accept his classification of the car as a horse, of conversation as treatment. The moment a man questions the meaning and value of life, declared Freud, he is sick, since objectively neither has any existence. By asking this question, one is merely admitting to a store of unsatisfied libido to which something else must have happened, a kind of fermentation leading to sadness and depression. This assertion sums up Freud's effort to medicalize morality, and hence all of life, because life is morality through and through, just as language is metaphoric through and through. Freud's life and work, exemplified by the above quotation, illustrates this. Psychoanalysis is a modem, pseudo-scientific version of Judaism. The Orthodox Jew believes the Jews are the chosen people, the Orthodox psychoanalyst that training analysts are the healthy people. Freud and the Freudians deprived Jung of many of his best ideas and, to boot, defamed him as an anti-Semite. Actually, Jung was more candid and correct than Freud in identifying psychotherapy as an ethical rather than technical enterprise, and Freud was more anti-Christian than Jung was anti-Jewish. Psychoanalysis is a religion disguised as a science. As Abraham received the laws of God from Jehovah, to whom he claimed to have had special access, so Freud received the laws of psychology from the unconscious, to which he claimed to have had special access. Pleasure in genital eroticism is literal sexuality. Pleasure in eating, defecating, urinating, and so forth is metaphorical sexuality. In his theories of sexuality, Freud first metaphorized human pleasure and then literalized his own metaphors, insisting that non-sexual pleasures are not merely like sexual pleasures, but are sexual pleasures. Freud viewed sex in the same anti-erotic way as the Church Fathers before him did, that is, as either procreation or pathology. The Church Fathers saw sex as dangerous temptation, weakness, and sin, or babies. The father of psychoanalysis saw it as masturbation, venereal disease, and perversion, or babies. In short, Freud had not the slightest understanding of sex as legitimate lust, as personal adventure, and as the potential locus for exceptional intimacy and respect between man and woman. The psychoanalyst sees all behavior as the Puritan sees sex. Intellectually, he replaces the subject's enjoyment of his behavior by the authority's explanation of it. Practically, he uses his explanation as a justification for condemning, forbidding, or otherwise regulating the subject's behavior. In short, although psychoanalysis seemingly sexualizes behavior, actually it puritanizes it. The Eucharist stands in the same relation to a snack of bread and wine as psychoanalytic treatment stands to ordinary conversation. The fact that the host is bread is overshadowed in the mind of the faithful by the awe and respect he feels for the church. Similarly, the fact that psychoanalysis is conversation is overshadowed in the mind of the faithful by the awe and respect he feels for medicine. Confession is to free association as absolution is to interpretation, as holy water is to cigar smoke, as original sin is to the Oedipus complex, as the soul is to the mental apparatus, as the priest is to the psychoanalyst, as Jesus is to Freud. The priest puts the penitent on his knees. The psychoanalyst puts the patient on his back. In each case, the physical arrangement of the encounter symbolizes the dominant theme of the transaction between the participants. The priest wants to make the penitent feel humbled. The psychoanalyst wants to make the patient feel helpless. Having imposed original sin on the penitent and induced transference neurosis in the patient, priest and psychoanalyst can proceed to rescue the one from sin and the other from sickness and demand their eternal gratitude for having saved them. Psychoanalysis is an attempt to examine a person's self-justifications. Hence, it can be undertaken only with the patient's cooperation and can succeed only when the patient has something to gain by abandoning or modifying his system of self-justification. The analyst should be a catalyst, facilitating the patient's communication and confrontation with himself. He should mediate between the patient's acknowledged and unacknowledged desires and decisions. The analyst does not change the patient, but helps the patient to change himself. This is one of the reasons why an outsider to the psychoanalytic situation can never know why a patient has not changed as a result of analysis. The analyst might have failed to give the patient the proper kind of help, or the patient might have preferred to remain as he was. The satirist deflates personal pomposities by ridiculing them. His method is laughter. The psychoanalyst inflates personal problems by solemnizing them. His method is lamentation. The satirist ridicules folly, but respects it. He laughs, lest he weep. The psychoanalyst diagnoses folly and debases it. He weeps, lest he laugh. The former is hateful toward those he satirizes, but treats them as equals. The latter is loving toward those he analyzes, but treats them as inferiors. Humorless persons make poor patients. Humorless therapists make pathetic analysts. Beware of the psychoanalyst who analyzes jokes rather than laughs at them.